Benny passed away on set in my arms, had a massive
Oh,
heart attack. We tried to revive him, and the toughest phone call I ever made was calling his wife that morning.
If you've ever watched an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, you've watched Joel Kramer and you didn't even know it. For over a decade, Joel was Arnold's personal stunt double. Every fall, every fight, every explosion you thought was Arnold, there's a good chance that was Joel. Joel and I grew up together. Elementary school, junior high school, same neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. And 50 years later, we're both still standing. Well, he's just done a lot more falling than I have. Joel's career started with a chance meeting in a parking lot. This is how it started.
And I'm walking into the Stuntmen's Association in a parking lot. I run into a stunt coordinator, old timer named Benny Dobbins. And he looks me up and down. He goes, "Hey, kid, are you in our group?" I went, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You're kind of half built." I had more of a swimmer's athletic body back then. And he goes, "Hey, are you working?" I said, "Yeah, I'm heading out of the Philippines next week. How'd you like to stay in town? I'm doing this movie called Commando with this Schwarzenegger guy, and I think you structurally be a good double for him." I was like ecstatic. I went, "Yeah, I could stay in town, get my new house in order." And so the next thing I did is I called my friend who was the stunt coordinator in the Philippines and said, "Hey, bad news, I'm not making it, but I got a guy to replace me." So I took care of that responsibility. So about 3 weeks later, they called me to come down and for a wardrobe fitting and get my hair. My hair was really long, Al. If you remember, I had long, dark hair and not gray. And I go up to the makeup trailer to go to hair, and out walks Schwarzenegger. And they go, "Arnold, this is Joel Kramer. He's going to be your stunt double." And he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, finally a stuntman that's a little bit built." And he shakes my hand and he walks off to wardrobe. So I go in and they dye my hair because Arnold's was real long too. And I went, "Oh, freaking great. I don't have to whack it off, right?" And then they pulled me out of hair and they said, "We're going to bring Arnold back in to style his hair. You go to wardrobe, get all fitted."
Joel sitting in the hair department chair, long, dark, freshly dyed to match Arnold, feeling pretty good about being able to keep his hair. And then Arnold walks by him again.
Arnold walks out with a buzz cut. And I go, "Oh, fuck." He looks at me and he says, "See this?" I go, "Yeah, you won't be seeing yours." And he walked off.
What happened next surprised Joel. Arnold didn't just treat him like a double, he treated him like a training partner, like a friend.
Long story short, we became really good friends on that show. And I started working out with him. I'd go down to World Gym. The days we weren't working, the weekends, I was at World Gym with him. He had a traveling gym on location. We trained. And about 6 months later, I got a call from a stunt coordinator named Glenn Randall, who did Raiders of the Lost Ark, a lot of these big movies back when I was a young up-and-coming stuntman. So Glenn calls me up and he says, "Joel, I'm doing the show it was called Triple Identity, but they changed the title to Raw Deal." And he goes, "It came through production that Arnold Schwarzenegger would like you to double him." And I was like, wow.
Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, Red Heat, film after film, Arnold asked for Joel. Benny Dobbins wasn't just a guy who got Joel the Commando gig. He was his stunt coordinator on Red Heat, his mentor, and Joel was his assistant coordinator, learning the craft he'd spend the next 40 years mastering.
We were in Schladming, Austria, up in the Alps, doing the whole snow fight sequence. Benny passed away on set in my arms, had a massive
oh,
heart attack. We tried to revive him. And the toughest phone call I ever made was calling his wife that morning. Walter Hill was the director, who's a wonderful guy. And we had a huge fight sequence we hadn't even blocked out yet. Walter shut down for a day out of memorial for Benny, which was very classy. So I went back to the hotel and I wrote out this whole fight sequence. I wrote it out, came to set prepared. We block shot everything. Arnold came up to me that night because it took us 3 days to shoot that. The third day he came, he says, "Jolie, I'm very proud of you. You stepped up. In spite of all this stress and losing a good friend of ours, you stepped up. We had to finish the show."
The man who found Joel in that parking lot was gone. And the next phone call Joel got changed his title forever.
So the next show we did after that was Twins. And I got a call from Gordon Webb, the producer, and he said, Ivan Reitman would like to meet with you as our stunt coordinator. So now Arnold's the one that called Ivan and said, this, I'd like you to meet Joel, blah, 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 blah. And that set me off as a stunt coordinator on all his pictures. I would go do other shows for other directors. And they would see that I've done all these Arnold movies. And they go, oh, he's probably a political hire. And I'd end up getting hired back by the same directors because, you know, you got to go in and do the job right. Whether you're Schwarzenegger's double or his coordinator, you don't play that ace card. You are there for the director.
There's one more thing you should know about Joel Kramer. The stunts, the Arnold stories, the career, that's the resume. But the man behind it, that's who you meet when the cameras aren't rolling.
Eddie Van Halen and Alex and I were dear friends. You know, they were at my wedding, and we've been friends for 35 years. So I call him up one day, and I said, Ed, he goes, what's up? I said, it's my son's birthday. I think he was turning 16. I said, can you sign a guitar for him? He goes, yeah, come on up to the house. And I bought this guitar, and Ed and I are bullshitting, and I hand it to him, and he opens up, and he looks at it, he goes, this is one of my fucking guitars. I said, yeah. He goes, where'd you get it? I said, I bought it. He goes, his literal words were, what the f did you do that for? You don't pay for guitars. I don't pay for this shit. You need a guitar, you need amps, I'll give you anything. He was literally pissed. And then he went and got another guitar, and he tuned it up, played it, you know, wrenched on it, set the whammy bar and all that. Then he signed it to my son, Joe Michael, which was really cool. Ed was a good friend. I was heartbroken when he passed.
I'm Al Kaplon, and that's Double Take on Behind the Whistle.